Welcome back, everybody. Well, today, let's build a shed. Never built one before, so we'll see how it goes. Stuff's light as a feather. All right, here's what I was digging for. These are my posts I'm going to use to hold the shed up. But as you see over there in that building, I've got post, and they just get in the way. So on this garage is 50 feet, which I'm going to hold it back a foot on the ends. Then I'll have a 12-inch overhang. So I'm essentially going to be 46 feet. So I'm going to do it with 3 posts, but I've had fabricator build me some, that's 1/4-inch wall, 6-inch tubing, and then I've got 4 14-inch LVLs, so that'll be my cradles. Got 2 end caps and then the middle where it'll, you know, meet up in the middle. So anyway, I've got my footers laid and poured. I'll put my reference marks on there. We'll try to get these posts set, and then we'll go get those LVLs and try to set our header. And when I set my forms up, I went ahead and made all my reference marks out here on my forms. So I poured my slab, but I've left my forms on it. That way I can come back and then reference from here to here, and then I can basically set where my posts need to be. And I've done that on all 3 of them. So now all I'll have to do is add 2 inches to these for the flange, and then I can make me a mark. Go ahead and take my base template, I'll lay it down, go ahead and mark my holes, and I can go ahead and get my holes drilled. Time to use some hydraulic power. How handy would an extra set of hands be? All right, I think we're lined up. Let's bolt her down. We'll move on to another one. Now everything's worked as planned so far, and I have reference marks on my center pier, but I'm just going to go ahead and pull the string from one end to the other. That way I can make sure I keep it straight in line, and then I've got my center marks on there where I want it to set down on that pier. So pull me a line, we'll set one more post, get everything plumbed up, then we'll move on to some headers. Now the fun part, I got to get that up there, which it takes about 11 feet to clear the top of that post. And when I keep this fork level, I'm only at about 10.6 or so. So I was hoping I'd be able to pick it up over it, and then I could get up there and just let it down in that cradle. But that's not going to work, so let's try something else. Never a doubt. I'm gonna end up killing myself, but hopefully we can get them in there. All right, on to the second row. I'm gonna stagger that joint where it meets in the middle. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a full 24-foot piece, and I'll center it up on that center post so it'll stick out 12 feet both ways, and then I'll piece it on the end, and then I'll go in there and screw it together. But it'll sort of tie that web together in the center. Makes sense anyway, so let's see if we can get it up there without getting killed. Put a center line on that. I think it's on the wrong side. Well, I had to cut out a little early last night, so I didn't get as much done as I'd like. But my little boy had his last basketball game, so we went and watched him play. But I'm going to start this morning piecing this LVL in. Then we'll stick the other two in there, and then try to stick our ledger board back on the garage, and then put some rafters on here. Well, I can tell you I've been dreading this last row, but I guess it's the last row, so you got something to look forward to. But this one's going to be fun. My gap's got pretty tight up there, so I left about a 1/4-inch gap in those saddles. So that way I had room to get them down in there. But I'm going to split this one the same way I did the second run, and then I'll go through there with those structural screws and screw this thing together. But I think it'll make it stronger. Let's see if we can wrestle it in there. All right, headers up. I took structural screws, went from both sides and sandwiched that together, so I think we're in pretty good shape there. Next, I got to put my ledger on the house. I've got a couple wires that'll stick through it for lights in here and then a camera. But I'll get a level line down through here. I've already got my height marked where I want it, But I'll shoot a line down through here and I'll screw me some just blocks down through there on the siding. That way I can rest it up on it, and then we'll try to get it screwed up. All right, I've got my little laser set up, but here is the top of my ledger. It's a 2x12, so it measures out 11¼ inches. So I've basically come down, marked where the bottom will be, and I've set my laser up, and then I've got a little receiver so I can work my way down that wall. I'll find where that elevation's at. I'll get me a mark, and then I will come in here and screw me a block. That way I can set my ledger down on top of it, and I won't be trying to wrestle a 16-foot 2x12 trying to hold it up by myself. Well, if anybody questions the durability of these little Dovo laser levels, when I was moving my ladder, I just knocked it off. It hit the ground. You can see where it hit. She's still ticking. Watch this potential train wreck. Well, I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. Back to the drawing board. Well, sometimes you gotta get a little bit creative, but it's up there. So it worked all right. I've got everything just tacked in place, and I left the ends a little bit long. That way I can square back to my header, and that way I make sure I got everything square. But I'll get that done, and then I've got to go through here with those anchor screws and go through here and tie everything back to the house and make sure it's good and solid. Once I get that done, though, we'll start cutting some rafters, try to put a roof on this thing. When I poured my piers, I put this little 45 material around here so it's chamfer the edges, but I'd left all my reference marks on my form, so I left them in place. So I'm gonna try to knock them out here and we'll see what that little detail looks like. I'll run around there and slick that up, but it'll look all right. I'll make sure that I don't have a lip here where that mud settled out on the edge of that form. That way it doesn't trap any water in here. I'll knock that edge down so wet water can roll off. And I'll probably go in here and put a bead of silicone around my bases. That way I don't get any water running back under it. But anyway, I think that's gonna look pretty good. That dresses them up pretty nice, and if you was to, hit a tire on it, you wouldn't have that sharp corner up here on top to hit. So, which I'll end up bringing rock back in here flush with the bottom of that chamfer, so I'll be sticking up to that little tapered edge. I think it'll work. Well, I think I'm gonna call it a day. I want to tackle those rafters and squaring everything up with a little fresher mind, which my mind doesn't get too fresh, but I'm gonna rest on that one, make sure I get everything right so when we screw them up, everyone won't have any problems. But for those of you that'll follow along, I'll show you a little bit what I got done inside. Well, we got some floors down. I went ahead and had them put the solid surface floors, got them put down. That way when I run my baseboard, I can run straight down on top of it, not have to have any shoe mold. And then, well, we got to get them covered up as well. But I did get the cabinets put in, finished that up a couple days ago. Still got to do some crown molding around the top, but we've got it now to where we can measure for countertops. But this will be an island, then obviously a stove and a hood, and then you'll have a refrigerator and freezer sitting there. So a little progress has been made, but if you watch this one, I appreciate it, and I'll continue on with part 2, and we'll try to get the top put on that shed, and we'll move on to something else. But hey, we'll catch you on another.